The NFL season begins on Thursday night between the Bills and the Rams, and I'm going to give my prediction on who I think will win. If you are new here, consider subscribing and dropping a like on the video if you guys do enjoy it. We're on the road to 5,000 subscribers, so if you are new, be sure to hit that button. But with all that being said, let's hop into the video previewing the Thursday night football game and giving my prediction between the Rams and the Bills. Just about every year, the NFL makes sure to put a high-key matchup to start off the NFL regular season. It's the Super Bowl champion from the previous year, and then an up-and-coming team who's supposed to be one of the best in the league, and that is what we have with the Bills and the Rams this year. The game will be played in SoFi Stadium. The Bills will travel all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast for the matchup, and I think it has a chance to be a really good game to start off the year. Going into the season, the Bills are the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl next year, and the Rams are supposed to be very good once again as well. Before I give my prediction, I want to go through the teams a little bit and discuss the moves that each team made this offseason and what they're really looking like heading into this Week 1 matchup. The two biggest moves for the Rams this offseason was signing Allen Robinson, the former Chicago Bear, to a deal. They gave him a 3-year, $45 million contract with $30 million guaranteed, and he's going to be joining this offense and replacing Odell Beckham Jr. and Robert Woods, who are really the wide receivers in this offense behind the X wide receiver in Cooper Kupp. I think Robinson is going to fit in really nice with this offense. We saw how open Odell was towards the end of the year with all the attention being put on Cooper Kupp. I think because of a down year for Robinson last year when he dealt with some injuries and playing for one of the worst teams in the league, he didn't produce as much, and people are kind of writing him off and seeing him as not returning to his form when back in 2020 and 2019 he was one of the best receivers in the entire league, and I think we're going to see that Allen Robinson again this year. The other big move for the Rams was bringing in Bobby Wagner, the ex-Seahawk who was cut from the team. Rams gave him a 5-year deal worth $50 million, which can reach up to $65 million if he reaches some incentives. Similar to Robinson, Bobby Wagner has been written off a little bit. People think he's washed and not as good as he once was, and I think to an extent that is true. Bobby Wagner is not 27, 28 anymore in his prime. He's in his 30s. He's only going to get worse and not better, but I still think he's one of the better linebackers we have in the league. And now that you compare that with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, you have a great player on every single level of your defense, and I think that's super underrated, and not many people are thinking about that when you think of the complexion of the Rams' entire defense. You got a stud and one of the best defensive players ever on your defensive line. You have a premier linebacker in the middle of your defense, and then you got what many see as the best cornerback in the league to help out your secondary. Not many teams can say that they have a great player at every single level of their defense, and I think that's something that's unique about the Rams' defense. The Rams also acquired their former cornerback Troy Hill from the Cleveland Browns for a 2023 5th-round pick, and Hill was really solid for the Rams. I think many players will excel when they're playing with Jalen Ramsey, but Troy Hill will again slide into that defense and be a really solid cornerback for the Rams. I think that was another underrated move that they made this offseason. Another point I want to bring up about their offense is Cam Akers is fully recovered from his Achilles injury, which he missed almost the entirety of last season. Now the Rams have another weapon to add to their offense. How elusive and electric is Cam Akers going to be? I didn't think he looked super healthy when he came back for their playoff run, but with the full offseason to recover and get back to form, I think he will regain some of that explosiveness this year. But now it's a whole nother element you can add into the offense. I thought Darrell Henderson was really good for the Rams last year. He emerged as one of the best fantasy running backs as well that you could have picked off of waivers. But now that you have a two-headed monster, Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson working the backfield, helping out Matthew Stafford so he doesn't have to throw the ball 40, 45 times a game. The final point that I want to make about the Rams is Matthew Stafford and his elbow. I think that whole situation was overblown. I think he just had a little bit of soreness, and I think for the most part, he's in the clear now and he's going to be 100% ready to go, according to Sean McVay. When the report of that injury came out, you had multiple news outlets just completely overreacting, saying how this could derail the Rams season, how they may not even make the playoffs, etc., etc. I always wasn't super concerned with it. I felt like if he just got some rest, it would go away, and that's pretty much exactly what happened according to Stafford and McVay, and hopefully this is the last of it and it does not show up into the season, because then it could cause some issues, but I really don't anticipate that affecting Stafford and the Rams this season. Now we'll move to the Buffalo Bills and the moves that they made this offseason to make their team even deeper. Starting with their defensive line, it is a completely new unit this year. They had a lot of veterans on their line last year, led by Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, and Star Lotulelei. Those guys are all gone. They brought in some more youth and some more depth players, but their biggest signing this offseason we have to mention first, and it is Von Miller signing a 6-year, $120 million deal with $51.5 million guaranteed. The Bills also added in Daquan Jones, Tim Settle, and Jordan Phillips to their defensive line, so that is 4 completely new pieces to their trenches. You can definitely see that was a point of emphasis for for them this offseason. And then in the draft, they spent their first round pick on Kaiir Elam, who will be a very important piece in the Rams game and for the first few weeks of the season, because their star cornerback Tre'Davious White will be missing at least the first 4 games of the season, as he is on the PUP list recovering from his ACL injury a season ago. So Elam is going to be put to the test early, and he must respond for the Bills quickly, or the Bills defense may struggle a little bit before Trey White can get back. And then for their offense, they're really focusing on bringing some more depth for the wide receiver and running back positions. And then they got a couple of new starters on their offensive line, starting with Roger Saffold at left guard. Saffold is 34 years old. He is on the downswing of his career, but he's still a very effective run blocker, and I think he's definitely going to help out their running game next year. But for a team that's pushing for a Super Bowl this year, I think it was important for them to go out and get a savvy veteran who can step in right away and be a very productive player. And their last big addition on the offensive line was David Quessenberry. So both of their new linemen they got from the Titans last year. The Titans offensive line has been pretty solid, so I do think that these 2 pickups are pretty good. As far as the new wide receivers and running backs go, the Bills brought in Jamison Crowder to help out their wide receiver core. He will be their wide receiver number 4. They also drafted Khalil Shakir in the 5th round, and he received a lot of hype in the preseason and training camp, and it seems like the Bills are very excited with his development and what player he could become. Also in the draft, the Bills drafted James Cook, the running back out of Georgia, and I think he has a chance to be a very nice weapon out of the backfield for Josh Allen and this offense. At Georgia, he was primarily used as a pass catcher, and I think being able to put him outside against some linebackers is going to be really effective. I'm going to be very interested to see how James Cook is used in this offense, but regardless, I think it's going to be very fun to watch what they do with him. But now that I've kind of overhauled the rosters and what each team did this offseason to improve their teams, I'm going to dive into the game a little bit, preview it, and then make my prediction on who's going to win the opening night of the NFL. So as I mentioned earlier, the Rams, the reigning Super Bowl champions, they will be hosting the game in SoFi Stadium. And surprisingly, the Bills are actually favored -2 on the road. And if you don't know how betting works, home teams get around 3 points just for solely having the home field advantage. So I read this as if the Bills were playing in Buffalo, they would be favored by almost a touchdown against the Rams. And I think that's a little bit crazy. The line indicates that the Bills will be winning a 1-score game, which last season they were 0-5 in the regular season and 0-1 in the playoffs against the Chiefs. We all know the infamous 13-second field goal, getting them into overtime, and the Chiefs won the game. So the Bills were 0-6 last year in games that were decided by 7 points or less. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have the Rams, who are 4-1 in the regular season in 1-score games and 4-0 in the postseason in 1-score games, making their total 8-1 last year in 1-score ball games, and the Bills at 0-6. Now, there are a lot of determining factors in this. Your opponent, maybe a late game touchdown, skews the stat a little bit here and there, but for the most part, I think this tells a story that the Rams were a lot better at closing out games last year than the Bills, and I think that element is one of the most important things to look at if you're a championship contender. You got to be able to win the close games, especially be able to close out the games against teams that you should be able to beat. So combining the line that Vegas has set and the 1-score data, I think that the Rams are the better choice for Thursday night's game. I think them coming out for the first game after their Super Bowl win, there's going to be a lot of emotion. They're going to be hyped up and ready to play. They're not going to want to lose on their Super Bowl ceremony night. Another interesting point I have is who is going to guard Cooper Kupp. As I've already mentioned, there's no Tre'Davious White. I think Cooper Kupp could have a very, very big game. And even if you want to bracket Cooper Kupp or double team him, Allen Robinson will have a really good game instead then. I think not having that premier cornerback in this game will turn out to be problematic for the Bills. I think this game will be a shootout. I think the Bills offense will be able to put up points. I think the Rams offense will be able to put up points. But I just think when the rubber meets the road, Cooper Kupp against a rookie like Kaiir Elam is going to be a little too much for the Bills to overcome in week number 1. But I'm very excited to watch this game. And who knows, this could be a preview of next year's Super Bowl if everything goes right for both of these teams. But let me know who you think is going to win opening night of the NFL season, the Bills or the Rams. We've waited so long for this night to happen, and I'm so excited that football is finally here. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and drop a like on the video if you guys did enjoy it, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.